Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Let's Talk on DNT Work. My name is Olujo Kemosaku, and as usual, we'll bring to you exciting topics that are not just exciting but educating. And our guests are people that have walked through it, and they have proven records that they are actually the best bet to discuss such topics. So today I have with me Toni Esinsinade. She is the regional vice president for America, and she also has other caps like investment broker. So if you have anything about finance, investment, anything at all, she's actually the right person to contact. So let's talk on the NT work. My name is Olujo Kemosako again, and today we will be talking about leveraging cash flow quadrant and capitalism. That's what we'll be discussing today. But before we go into it, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all of our social media platforms. But please enjoy this topic, and we look forward to having beautiful comments and suggestions from you.
J.K. Royal Signatures, a blend of African fabric.
Thank you, Toni, for coming on the show. We indeed appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening, everyone.
So now we are talking about leveraging cash flow quadrants and capitalism. Would you please give us a description or what these words mean? Leveraging cash flow quadrant and what capitalism also mean.
Okay, great. So we'll start with the cash flow quadrants. These are the ways that you can make money, income in the capitalist economy. And for the most of the world's largest economies, most of them are capitalist economies, right? So let's talk a little bit about the cash flow quadrant and what it means. If I'm able to share my screen, that'll be great. But if not, I'll just rattle the words off. So there's 4 categories in the cash flow quadrant. There's the employee quadrant, which is the top left. And we have the self-employed quadrant, which is the bottom left. And there's a reason why I'm categorizing them that way. And then we have the business owners on the top right and investors on the bottom right. Okay. And the idea is the left quadrant of the economy is pretty much banking on someone else or banking on a limited structure to pay you in the cash flow quadrant. However, the right-hand side is an unlimited structure that pays you in the cash flow quadrant. So for example, when you're an employee, someone else outside of yourself dictates how much you make, right? They dictate your income. When you're an employee, someone else dictates your schedule, so they dictate your time. If you tell them you have to go to soccer practice and they're like, no, you have to work overtime, guess what you're going to do as an employee? Work overtime, okay? So the idea of someone else outside of ourselves controlling our time and our income, I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but that feels a little bit limiting, right? But when it comes to being a self-employed individual, so, we're getting a little bit more happy and blessed and self-employed, because at least at this point, we get to be in control of our schedule to a certain extent, and also be in control of our income to a certain extent. And the reason why I use the word certain extent is that when you're self-employed, there's no leverage because when you stop working, if you love to travel like I do, if you go somewhere and you're not working or you're not making money, are you?
Mhm.
No, right? When you're self-employed, there's no leverage. You can't leave and still make income. But you
Yeah.
do have flexibility where you can choose how long you work and even how much money you make to a certain extent, right? But you can't work 24 hours. That's not humanly feasible, at least not every day, right? So when
Mhm.
you're tired, you're not making money. When you're off, that's it. And so that's the left side of the quadrant. And like I said, the left side of the quadrant, I mentioned this earlier, has a limiting structure of making income. So the idea is to transition from the limiting side of the quadrant to the unlimited side of the quadrant, which is having the business owner on the top right and the investment investor on the bottom right. And on the side of being a business owner, it's really no cap, right, in income in the economy. What does that mean? If you're a business owner, you're in charge of your time, you're in charge of your income, but now you have leverage because if you truly own a business, not when you're self-employed, those are two different things. People
Yeah.
they confuse it all the time. When you own a business, you can walk away from that business and still keep making income.
Mm.
That's what business is. Right. So a lot of people, go ahead.
So that leads to financial freedom because I would want you to also show us, explain how this quadrants leads to financial freedom, especially the topic we're discussing.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I share my screen with you? Is that
Sure.
possible? Absolutely. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and and share my screen with you if you would accept the request that I just sent to you. And the reason why I'm sharing my screen is so it could be visual to everyone who is listening. Idea of being an employee and self-employed is the left side of the quadrant, and the right-hand side is the business owner and the investor. So as a business owner, you have unlimited income because as long as your location is open, you can even hire people for different shifts, morning shift, night shift, overnight. As long as your business is open, you remain profitable. You can remove yourself from the structure. You can walk away. You can live in a different country. But because you have a system working, whether you show up, you wake up, you're dead or alive, you'll continue to be profitable. So that's the true financial freedom that we want, where we can travel, help our family, do charities, give back to the world, and not worry about where the next income or cash flow or paycheck is going to come from because the system keeps spitting out income as long as you're open. And
Mhm.
that's the true financial freedom where you have unlimited time because you don't have to be there to make the income, right? So you have unlimited time and then also unlimited income. There's no cap. If your business is capable of making $100 billion a month, nobody's going to say, oh, excuse me, that's too much money you're making, right? No, that's what your business does. It is what it is, right? So
Mhm.
that's unlimited time and unlimited income is true freedom. And I think if we're going to be working on this earth and we don't get a chance to come back for part two, I think that's what all our careers, all our goals should be in direction towards. How can I build, financial freedom by building a structure that will allow me to not be there and still make income regardless, and also not have to waste, time doing something I don't want to do. So you get the time to do whatever you want to do and you don't have to worry about the next income. Now, the investor side is very fun because now you don't have to rely on people, right? You just rely on the economy. So, I'm from a country where they always send people on errands. Hey, can you go do something for me? And the idea of the errand is you go away and you bring something back. You come back with something. So when you're an investor, you sort of send money on an errand to bring you more money, right? So you're not even depending on people anymore. The inconsistency of someone calling out, not being around, people wanting to do whatever they want to do. But now you're relying on, being an investor, investing in the economy and having, profit, investing in other companies, right? So you don't have to worry about your own brick and mortar, right? Your own physical location. It just runs without you being there and with lower physical commitments. And so the right hand side is where true freedom is. And the alarming part of it is that 99% of the American population, the people in the United States, are on the left hand side and only 1% is on the right hand side. And let's talk about the income or the cash flow or the money or the wealth. Only 1% of America's wealth is on the left side, and 99% of America's wealth is on the right side. So that's a huge wealth inequality that we have there as a result of the choices we make every day.
Okay, because quickly looking at both business owner and self-employed, how I how would you differentiate these two? Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm self-employed," and being self-employed means that I have a business that I'm running. I make my own money. But right now, you say a lot of Americans are on the left hand side looking from your own angle, and then just a little percent is on the right hand side. Now, I was actually coming to this quadrants, the employee, the business, and all of that. So, what are the first? You give us the explanation as I requested, and then just to add this to it, what is that the advantage and the disadvantages of this quadrant?
Okay, so the difference between self-employed and business owner, and then I'll go into the disadvantages and advantages. Am I right?
Yes, of the quadrants. That's
Great.
after giving us that.
After the difference, yes. Being
Yes.
self-employed, if you're an economist and truly evaluating the situation, is owning a job because, the clients still dictate the self-employed individual's life. If your clients say, this is the time I need you to be there, you will be there, right?
Um,
So you own a job. That's what it is when you're self-employed. A true economist knows that you are the life of your business. And once you're gone, then there's no more income, right? So the difference between being self-employed and being business owner is you don't have to be part of the operation. You can even hire somebody to be you. Right? You could own the business and have a president, right? You're the founder, right? You have a
yeah.
president of the company. You can hire someone to cover all your bases when you're a business owner. You never have to be there. It's like walking into the McDonald's franchise. I've never walked into the McDonald's franchise and found the owner sitting there waiting for people to come buy a piece of burger. No, people own those franchises, but they're never there because the system runs without them because they have people running the system for themselves. So the difference is building a team, right? Having people work with you or for you as a business owner gives you true freedom, or having a system work with you or for you so you don't have to be there. Once you're able to remove yourself and still keep making money, then you have a business. When I say remove, I mean you don't need to look into the cash register. You don't need to be supervising anything. You're just getting paid. That's
Mm,
what a true business owner is because you have hired people to replace you on every level that you could want to do something. Even if you're a control, you know, you're a controlling person, you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, I can hire someone to be as controlling as I am," right? So that's the difference. Just having a system that you can walk away from, still keep making money, having a team of people that can work for you, still keep making money without being a part of the production and be extremely profitable. So yes, does that answer the question?
Definitely. Now I get it.
All right,
So
great.
the
Now,
advantages and disadvantages.
mhm. So let's start with the employee, the obvious disadvantages. And the disadvantages is just no control of time and income. I have a lot of people around me that tell me that they were mandated to stay at their job more than the time they're scheduled to be on that they're scheduled to be at the site or to be at work. And they can't do anything but stay if they want to keep that job. And I just think that, I mean, they told us that am I allowed to be controversial on this podcast, or this is not one of the controversial podcasts? they they told us that they abolished slavery a long time, but it doesn't look too different if I have to be mandated to stay somewhere that I'm not scheduled to be on or be at, right? So that's just it. It's the inability to control your own time and your own income, having someone else dictate your schedule and dictate your income. And you're like, they don't really dictate your schedule. Yes, they do. Because what if you want to go to soccer practice in the morning and watch your child play? Your child
Mhm.
plays on Wednesday morning, but you have to be at work on Wednesday morning. They are either directly or indirectly controlling your schedule. And I believe that when someone controls your time and your money, they by default control your life. So those are the disadvantages. Advantages is I'm sorry, I'm a little biased. The false sense of security that the job creates, right? When I say false sense of security, it's really not true security. And I think everyone who listens to this podcast may not be able to agree with me. But I think if you've ever been fired from a job, you would definitely agree with me that they could literally wake up any day and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't need you anymore." And even if your mom comes to beg, they're not gonna hire you back. Like it doesn't matter, right? They done, right? They don't care how you're gonna feed the babies, feed the twins, pay your rent or your mortgage. They don't care how you're gonna make your insurance payments. So, like I said, it's a false sense of security. I personally believe. I mean, I'm gonna be very biased, right? I personally believe that having a job is like having a very deep cut and using a bandage on it. It really is a very, very temporary solution to a bigger problem. And I think for most people, they never really address the problem. So we begin to bleed through the bandage. And that's when we have situations like living paycheck to paycheck, or, not just liking our lives at the job, not having a great quality of life, not having a good work-life balance, right? That's really bleeding through the bandage. So it's very temporary. Like I said, maybe people may feel a little bit secure at a job. They don't have to worry whether the company is profitable or not. They feel like they can come and still make a paycheck. But newsflash, if the company becomes like really, really unprofitable, you're still gonna lose your job, right? So
Yeah.
it's not really secure at the end of the day, right? So
Hmm.
I'm really trying hard here, Miss Olujokera, to find an advantage for me at a job. But I'm sorry, I'm extremely biased. It is what it is, right? But when I think of one, I will tell you, right? But like I said, maybe just going in there and knowing that you don't have to worry about anything, you would get a paycheck at the end of the day. But the truth is, if really they're not doing well, you're going to have to be gone anyways.